Yo guys, what's up? It's Thomas here with Manhack doing another Aura Fest live stream. Haven't done one of these in a minute, so I'm stoked to be doing one of these again. It feels like we had to dust off a couple things here, but just want to again thank Tim for helping to put these on and getting some badass bands on these live streams. This time, today, right now, we have Through the Eyes of the Dead, who probably heard their song 2 Inches from Main Artery. If you haven't, you're messing up. Listen to that shit. Go listen to that album. South Carolina natives from like they were a band since 2003, so definitely been around for. Anyway, we've got those guys here. We're gonna just ask them some questions and on. So, what's up, guys? How you guys feeling today?
Like
Doing
a million
good, doing
bucks.
Cool, man. Hey, so we've got Steven here, who is in the black right here on the stream. That's the original, the OG member, the band dad probably, plays guitar. And then we've got Justin in the room, who also plays guitar.
It's actually reversed.
Yeah.
Is it?
Flip flop. Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I'm Justin, and Steven's in the red.
Oh, hey, there we go. Apparently, when I made those notes, I type it correctly. Anyway, I guess
That's
it's safe
all
to
right,
say,
man.
though, Justin, for you, would you consider yourself the band dad? Because you pretty sure you're, from what I understand, you're the only original member left. I guess that's some a project that you started up. Are you kind of the band dad, the manager, the whole thing?
In some ways, yes. I don't like being the band dad though, but I definitely handle a lot of the the day-to-day stuff. But being playing shows and things like that, it's being a band dad is not my favorite thing, but just kind of the role, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What? So about your role in the band, I mean, 2003. I mean, hell, that's 20 years now. I mean, was this a project that you started? Was it you and a couple of people? I mean, how did this become a thing? Because it looks like here and you formed in 2003, but there was a previous band that you were in, and then you started Through the Eyes of the Dead, and had the album that came out in 2005. So how did that band come to fruition? Was that something that you started, or?
Yeah. So basically, when I was a kid, I moved around a lot, and I ended up in the town of Florence, South Carolina. I didn't have a lot of friends, so I met an old friend of mine whom I'm still very good friends with. His name's Malcolm. He introduced me to a lot of people in the area because we went to high school together, and felt kind of like an outsider. So I didn't really know anyone at the time. So he kind of introduced me to some musicians and things like that, and kind of opened my eyes to kind of what's going on. Because I've always been like a huge fan of metal and things like that, and we kind of bonded over that. But yeah, I mean, he introduced me to a lot of the members that ended up being in Through the Eyes of the Dead. But we were in some local bands prior. I think it all started with a band called Maggot Christ and a band called Love Fist. Yeah, right.
Great names all around. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But those guys were, I believe I actually joined Maggot Christ and played probably my first show, if my memory serves me correct, with them. But then we started another band called Tell Her I Said Goodbye. And that was kind of a, I don't like, you could probably find it online somewhere, but wasn't my favorite project that I was in. But that band ended up becoming Through the Eyes of the Dead. We kind of wanted to be a little bit more death metal, and kind of, we were surrounded by a lot of metalcore and hardcore from the Carolina scene, especially North Carolina. I actually was really into what was going on. We were super into Prayer for Cleansing and Aria and Undying and a lot of those bands. But a lot of us were also into like real brutal death metal, you know, starting back from like Cannibal Corpse and things like that. And I kind of wanted to blend, you know, aspects of those genres. But yeah, I mean, I even think like, you know, with like Tell Her I Said Goodbye, I think I was really into, you know, what was going on around at the time. Like we saw Between the Buried and Me, you know, in the very early stages. So we were kind of doing that. We're kind of being like, it was kind of like we were sponges, you know, just kind of what was going on. And, you know, we were just basically learning as we were going, and that kind of developed that sound, you know, with all of us just kind of contributing back then. And yeah, I mean, rest is history. I mean, you know, we recorded an EP in 2003, and it started getting a lot of traction. And yeah, it was got some label interest afterwards. So, you know, it's been a wild ride for sure.
Yeah. It looks like, so Bloodlust released in 2005 through Prosthetic Records, correct?
Yeah. We released an EP in 2003, and then we did a split. We recorded in 2004, but I believe it ended up being released in 2005. It was a split with a band called The Knife Trade, whom we have. They're actually from Georgia, but we've done some shows. We did like a bunch of shows. I think maybe our first tour with them for like a week or so. You know, just kind of going up the East Coast and whatever. But we did a split with those guys, and I met Ryan Knight, who is actually in Black Dahlia Murder now. And, you know, we kind of, you know, did our first touring together. So, yeah, it was a good time for sure.
How many of those songs from that EP and that split actually in that first?
It's a good question. I don't know exactly.
I think two of them.
I want to say it might be more. And the reason being is because, when we got on Prosthetic Records, we had no time to write a record. I remember it being the most rushed thing I've ever done.
Damn.
And it was crazy because we had all these ideas, but we just didn't have enough time to figure it out. I mean, it was literally like, all right, label wants the record out, and I think it was October of 2005. I'm pretty sure we put all that together in 2005. And I think we only maybe had 2-3 months to, you know, write, record, and, you know, mix, master, and have it out. So I remember there's Beneath Thine Skies, Truest Shade of Crimson. I feel like there's at least another one. I'm sure it'll come to me, but yeah, it was a very rushed first full length, and I remember not being happy with it, but now it's definitely a fan favorite. So it's just how those things are. You know, you usually don't feel good about it, and then it just becomes something, you know, bigger than you can imagine. So it's funny how it works.
Yeah, that song 2 Inches from a Main Artery. I mean, obviously that song is killing it for Spotify. Got 1.6 insane. And was that a song that came from the EP, or is that a song that was one of the rushed songs in the writing process and trying to get that album out?
So I don't think that we rushed that one per se, but like I had already started working on that, you know, before the whole prosthetic thing. I remember it, if I recall right, we had to blend basically 2 songs together with that. And that was the first song that I had started writing for the record. I remember that, and I was very happy with it. I wrote it in my bedroom in a very small town of Darlington, South Carolina. You know, very hick town. There's nothing there. It's probably a few miles long.
NASCAR's there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
that's all you need,
right. That's
dude.
Pretty much what Darlington's known for. But yeah, I wrote it in a bedroom there, I remember, and I just never could complete it. And then Chris Anderson had recently joined the band, and he was on the Split prior, and he had parts of a song and they kind of fit key wise. So we kind of combined them, and that's why that song's so fucking long. It's like 5 minutes or something.
5.5 minutes. Yeah. That's pretty interesting that your song called 2 Inches from a Main Artery contains 2 songs. Never would have known that.
Never thought of it that way.
Yeah, never would have known that. I'm always really interested in songs that are kind of the inner Sandman for bands, quote unquote, right? The ones that always get the most traction and get the most plays, and the ones that seemingly, some people could even say, blow that artist up, quote unquote. Most bands probably can tell you what theirs is. So, I mean, it's always interesting though, because I think you kind of said something kind of similar to this earlier, but you never really know what's going to happen until you actually put it out there. And you might have thought that because that song is so long, it's 5.5 minutes long, that because of people's attention spans, even back in 2005 when social media wasn't as prevalent and people had slightly longer attention spans than they do now, arguably. Did you think that song was going to pop off the way that it did, or just the album in general even? And was there a reason why that song got put, well, I want to say first, it's second because it's an intro track, but like the first main song that you hear, is it like, okay, this is going to pop off? Or was it just, oh, this is kind of where it sits on the record, let's see what happens? Like, what did you think was going to happen with that?
Yeah, I never thought it would be, quite as big, but the thing is, like, when it was written, I kind of knew it was a first song, and when we played it live prior to recording it, I kind of had a feeling that, because it was like it's one of those songs that's a crowd pleaser, obviously to this day, but even when we played it and no one had heard it before, it was definitely like something that, really got the fans riled up. So, yeah, I mean, writing that one, it's weird. I just thought of this too, because when we started writing the next record, Malice, Failure in the Flesh was the first song that I wrote for that. And that ended up being, the single and the first track. So I don't know. I think it's like, and with Skepsis, that didn't happen. But with those two records, it kind of was like the first song written, first song, that is on the record. And I guess that's just kind of when I sit down to write, if I'm writing, specifically for a record, I guess I'm just kind of thinking with that mindset. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm trailing off here, but yeah.
No, it makes perfect sense. It's always interesting too, because especially when long songs like that are the most popular one, because it's almost as if you, kind of what we were saying earlier, where you don't think that's going to be popular. Oh, well, the song has to be 3 minutes, right? And stop making songs over 3 minutes long, right? But obviously, if the song's good enough, people will listen to it 5, 6, 7 minutes. You look at BT Bam, right? People love them, and they got 14-minute songs. So,
yeah, and that's the thing. It's like we were heavily influenced by Between the Buried and Me early on. Like I had mentioned, with Tell Her to Say Goodbye and stuff, where we would, blend like singing and clean parts with heavier parts. But that was, I remember they were more of like a progressive, type of band. And a lot of the progressive bands have longer songs, like Dream Theater or whatever. But I noticed, there are a lot of like rules in the industry where, you want, 3 minutes or whatever. And we just never really followed that. And it's something that really doesn't make sense. I actually prefer shorter songs, to be honest with you. It just kind of, with writing, it's weird. It's like, when it's done. And if it needs more, you just kind of have that feeling, and Steven can probably, chime in on that as well. But, I mean, it's weird when you, it's like, there's this feeling in the air that is like, all right, I think this is now final. And all the stuff I write, I feel like it keeps carrying on. We have a song called Truest Shade of Crimson that's like extremely long like that too. That might be hitting 6 minutes. I don't recall, but it's up there.
17 seconds for that one.
Yeah. So, and I remember we played that one live a lot prior, And there are some parts where live it's just like, is this shit over? I'm ready to get to the end of this song. So we might have, added a little to it, but I don't know. It's cool. It's really not intended, but it's just something that kind of happens, and it's you kind of go by feel when it comes to writing. But yeah, I mean, like I said, Steven, he probably can chime in a little more too with that.
With writing songs.
Yeah, like when you kind of know that feeling of when it's finally complete. You don't really set a time limit, or even if you try, sometimes it's like,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they just kind of write themselves. It's kind of whenever you feel like you've said what you wanted to say. Each song is kind of like a journey, and you're saying something musically. And they just kind of write themselves. Some end up being pretty long, and some end up being pretty short. They just kind of come out, whatever feels right and best.
What is the writing process? So, Justin, you said years ago you sat in your bedroom, world's smallest town. They had a NASCAR race every once in a while, and wrote a lot of that. Wrote a lot of that release. What is your process for writing and recording music like nowadays? Because obviously things are a lot different, right? Nowadays, as far as not only how far the technology has come, social media, everything else, so many dynamics for a band writing music now, right? So how do you guys write music? That one person and then maybe other people chime in? Do you guys kind of all get together in a room and make something happen? Or I'm assuming most of you guys are probably not. Is everybody located in South Carolina, or is it like kind of spread out? Is it difficult for you guys to write music together, or is it?
So,
physically, it's difficult.
Yeah.
Okay.
These days we rely heavily on technology. Everyone in the band pretty much has a way to record. So I mean, in the early days we did hash out a lot of stuff organically in a room, but we still came to the practice space with ideas. And I think a lot of those ideas, specifically for our band, we had everything pretty much like written out to an extent. And then we would hash it out and, at practice and, kind of go, by feel. But now, I mean, everyone in the band now is scattered and have been scattered for a while throughout lineup changes. So, it all starts with someone with a riff or a culmination of, riffs and, song ideas, and we kind of send stuff back and forth. But even in the early days, like 2003, 2002, even, we would record in some really, like ghetto setups, but it was still on the computer, but there wasn't a ton of like, software like there is these days. But we made the best of it and kind of got our ideas across in a similar fashion, but not quite as, detailed, I guess. But yeah, I mean, we come up with ideas. We even send voice memos and shit like that. Steven and I have, stuff that we hum into into our iPhones, and and then sometimes we'll record, in the room, and we got all kinds of stuff that we're actually sitting on right now that haven't been worked out. So
that's interesting to hear that we're not the only band that hums voice memos on the phone.
Yeah, it's pretty popular.
It's such a funny concept though, because you wouldn't think. I mean, it's super easy, but it's like, all right, I have this drop-tuned underground screaming only deathcore riff. Yeah, let me hum this with my mouth real quick over voice recorder. It's just the funniest thing.
Yeah, it's like you got to wonder, like the stuff that you're actually sharing. It's like, let's hear the stuff that you're actually not sharing, because I'm sure there's some nice deep cuts in there of you, just
literally.
Let's hear them, Steven.
Yeah.
Hey man, I can blow to the voice memos. That's where it all starts,
Blow
really.
through. Come on, let's write a song right now, cuz.
Yeah. There you
I
go.
wrote a couple a few weeks ago from some old voice memos.
That would
That's
be a first that
awesome.
we haven't had on a stream before, is a band writing a song on a live stream. Cool. What is y'all's recording process like? So obviously you guys are doing the voice memos and you're kind of spread out, so getting in the room together isn't as much of an option, but when it comes time for y'all to record a release or an EP, single, album, whatever it is, guys do any of that on your own? Maybe you do demos or pre-production, or do you just rely maybe on the voice memos until it's time to go to the studio and actually record the full thing? What's y'all's recording process like nowadays?
I mean, we definitely work things out pre-production wise before we even think of the studio. The last one, what we did was we basically wrote some stuff at home and recorded it into Pro Tools and had everything kind of tempo mapped, and we would share it with each other and kind of get ideas through email or text or whatever, and then we would send to Danny, our vocalist, and he's starting to write lyrics and patterns and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, and then we usually do the solo stuff last after we work out sections and things like that, but it's all pre-pro. Even I think we started doing pre-production like when we were recording Malice, when we set time. That one we set time for in the studio and actually did a week of pre-production in the actual studio with Eric Rutan. So I actually would love to get those sessions. We had like a week or so where we just jammed all the songs that we had written in a room, kind of in a live atmosphere. So those songs would be really cool to hear that. But now we just basically have everything kind of set up and ready to go before we hit the studio. I will say, Somas, the last record, we did go to our buddy John Boyce's studio. A couple of us went there, and he helped us kind of arrange some things before we actually went into finalizing tracks and things like that, and we sent it to the guys. So kind of just run of the mill how most bands do it now. They're not like 100% fully done sometimes, but once we get to the studio, we kind of finish it out that way.
Gotcha. So for these remixes and these remasters that you guys just uploaded of Stars of Annihilation, Abyssal Creation, how was the process for that? Did you grab the old sessions from whoever recorded them and then just had that person remix it and remaster it? What was that process like?
So Jamie King, during the pandemic in 2020, Jamie King started remixing and remastering a lot of the old stuff since he had time, since he didn't have, any sessions going on. So he basically remastered our first EP and Split. And then he also remixed and remastered Bloodlust, which is yet to be released, but we're sitting on that right now. Maybe we can ask Prosthetic to release that at some point. But badass. Yeah, he kind of did that. And, Steven and I have been talking about this for a while, but we wanted to put it out, and it took, 3 years for us to finally do it, because there's a lot of, stuff that goes behind the scenes when you're starting up a label and, trying to get all that going. But, Steven and I started labels. My label is called Skepsis Recordings, and his is Beyond the Top Records. So we kind of, to get that going, we collaborated and put the remix remaster of the EP and Split onto one full length, because a lot of fans have been wanting that. They were only released on CD through Love Lost Records, and and I finally got the rights to them actually in 2007 or 2008, and I recall wanting to put them out then. And I started an imprint, tried to start an imprint with Prosthetic Records, our label at the time. and it didn't pan out. So, I kind of sat on them. And then once Jamie decided to remix and remaster everything, that was kind of the green light. It's like, all right, time to quit fucking around and release this stuff and give everyone, what they want. Cause I think all that stuff was like just on YouTube or whatever. It wasn't even on streaming services or anything like that. So
what was it like, for you guys? You had a brief period there. Maybe you can speak on the hiatuses, quote unquote. You guys have even technically had one, but when it comes to releasing music, because we talk about streaming services, obviously when Bloodlust came out in 2005, yeah, there was a streaming service, MySpace, right, and maybe something like Project Playlist and whatnot, but it wasn't streaming services, quote unquote, air quotes. How's it been different for you guys as far as now kind of adjusting to the dynamic of streaming outlets, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, etc., coming from what you guys might have been used to on MySpace?
It's definitely been hard to get used to, because the music industry is always constantly changing. It's hard to keep up. But I think it is really good in some ways and bad in others. I remember we used to have to report, sound scans and report each night when we were on tour, like CD sales. And then all of a sudden that really doesn't matter anymore. And now your streaming numbers matter. So it's always like you're trying to catch up, when you're a working and touring band. But I don't know, you kind of just gotta, conform to whatever is going on, and it's always changing. There's always the next thing, so you kind of just have to be on top of it. But back in the day, we owe a lot to MySpace. We were, we had a lot of fans on there that really kind of catapulted us into a much bigger audience. And the reason that I say that is because in South Carolina, there were hardly no bands kind of doing what we were doing. There's like a handful of bands that kind of made it out, like Nile, like we were talking about earlier, obviously them, but there's some great bands that, really never made it out. But, we kind of took advantage of, social media and, got, a following on MySpace. And actually before that, I remember there was a website called hxcmp3.com. And I remember I don't know if anyone remembers that. I'm definitely showing my age there, but we were like
purevolume.com.
Oh, wow. Oh no.
Yeah.
We were like, up?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That stuff was out there. I remember that. Wow. But, we had the front page of hxcmp3.com, and it was like a song from the EP that got like premiered or something. I don't remember. But I remember that being like a big thing. And then like on MySpace, you would see like, Job for a Cowboy and all those bands, Suicide Silence, and all these bands just like blowing up. And we ended up, playing with those bands, at that time. And then all of a sudden, then it's, Facebook and then it's like, no one's on Facebook anymore. So you got to do Instagram, and then you got to do this and this, and social media is just like, I don't know, but yeah, it's a lot to keep up with. And it sometimes can be discouraging because, you try to be, a musician and actually try to focus on that stuff. But if you don't have, a huge team working for you, then it's definitely a challenge, to kind of catapult yourself up and stand out. But yeah, Steven, he's in another band called Wretched, and they, were kind of around that same time, of coming up. So, they were on MySpace, and he's seen the same stuff that I did. We were just, kind of parallel, with that.
Steven, do you have any comments on that as far as social media then versus now?
It was quite a bit easier and I'd say a bit more fun to use and interact with back then than now. It's a whole process now, when it comes to just announcing a show or a tour, even. It's this whole thing with, you got to go here and do it this way in this format on this particular platform, and then you have to go here and doing this, a different format there, and it's just a bunch of stuff to keep up with. And whereas back in the MySpace days, you could just have your one central MySpace and be able to do a blog there. You could do bulletins. You could really get news across, get music up, just kind of pretty much anything you really needed to do and not be overly complicated. But today, there are a lot more tools that are useful to bands and stuff, and streaming will allow a lot more access to artists and to really connect with people. And so it's a lot easier today in some ways, and I guess it's a bit harder in other ways. The payouts for streaming today is a little on the low side, negative side, whereas physical, if you translated like 1 million streams into 1 million album sales, that's two entirely different ball games for the artist versus the people on the other end, I guess you'd say. But it's pros and cons. Just gotta keep up with the times and pretty much just keep rocking and rolling.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of a gift and a curse, 100%. I mean, kind of like what you said too, Steven, about how man, it would be nice to just have everything in a central location, kind of thinking about that now. But yeah, you'll have a video and you got to make it in 9:16 format, but then this doesn't. But if you put the text here on the screen, it's not going to work on this thing. And then, but it's not this, but this video length and this thumbnail doesn't work over there. So there's a lot to it for sure. And that's kind of the curse of it, is kind of like what you just said. I have a video, we have a video the band does, and we got to post it up on social media. It has to go to Instagram. Got to do it a certain way. It's uploaded to YouTube Shorts, and then it's uploaded to Facebook Reels and wherever else, and then you got to do a certain way. And then, but it put on this story, but it's not syncing up on the Facebook story like it should. So now I have to individually post it on the Facebook story. So it's
that's the bane of our existence. It's like you need a full team working for you to do this stuff. And if you're a DIY artist, it's so difficult to keep up. And especially like when they change, some kind of format or change this, and over here trying to search, how to do something. And then you follow those directions and it's like, that's from like 2 weeks ago. And, Meta decided to, change this whole, concept of how to do this. It's like so frustrating. It's like, Steven and I joke all the time. It's like, when do we get a chance to play guitar, man? It's like, it's so crazy.
I got to break my calluses in every other week, re-break them in.
Man.
Yeah, dude, we get real rusty quick. So, but we're, as we're typing and posting, about, new vinyl release or, anything like that. And now that we have the labels that, we had just started, it's even more work. And we're seeing that side of it. And it's a lot of fun, but it's also like, it's definitely, a lot to keep up with. So we're doing our best. There was a big period of time where we kind of just neglected it. And Steven helped out a ton with like trying to bring that back to life, and we've seen results from it. So it's like you can't neglect this stuff. You can't be too cool for it, because your fan base it'll just suffer. So it's just kind of the name of the game.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about being cool for it. It's you have the potential with social media, and that's the gift of it. You have the potential to reach everybody, essentially, an unlimited amount of people. But there is obviously that aspect of work. And it's kind of like what you guys said, too. I mean, the dynamic that we experience, it's kind of the same thing. Where you get off work. All right, got the video that needs to go up on social media, make the video, upload it. All right, now it's time to eat. All right, now it's time to go to bed. It's like, all right, I guess I'm not writing anything or playing guitar today. And there's plenty of days that it seems like that, where it's you're trying to create content more or less maybe for the sake of it, quote unquote, but I mean it still has a purpose, but it does take a lot of time, and that's another downside of social media. But the upside is, I believe, that time that you put into it definitely pays off. If your band can not just you guys, but just kind of speaking in general, can get one social media post out a day. I mean, that work ethic to do that consistently is far ahead of other bands. So you're going to start really setting yourself apart. But the problem is uploading to social media once a day, right? So it's
exactly
it's a tough trade-off for sure.
And you don't want to kill your fans with just content to post content. You know, I mean, they can see right through that. It's like, hey, you know, like, so it's like we try and, you know, the quality of the content, we try and, you know, keep that in mind. You know, to an extent, it's like, I don't want to just say, you know, the same stuff over and over. So then you got to get really creative with it. And, you know,
that's
yeah. So that you almost have to be creative with, you know, the music and that side of it. So it's, I don't know. It's interesting. It's definitely, worked out very well for us, even from the early days. It's just, it's a job.
It's cool to keep an element of I guess mystery there, and with not posting so regularly. Growing up, you know, my favorite bands and stuff, I couldn't go on the internet and search anything I wanted about them, so there was always that element of mystery, you know, and it's something about that always draws me into something I'm into. You know, if I can't find anything about it, it's intriguing, you know, it's fascinating. You can't, but when you always post content, it just, the content thing, you know, it just becomes like, here's my entire life on the internet at some points. And, you know, you start to forget about just writing a song, rocking on the guitar.
Yeah, that's double catch 22 or whatever a phrase is relevant there. I mean, it's like you it's like you can't, like you said, I mean, not posting to social media regularly creates that kind of a vibe, but that's the thing too, is on the flip side of that, when you do post to social media regularly, the Instagram algorithms and Facebook algorithms do you more favors, but it's more difficult to do. So it's just kind of this balance of, again, if you don't have a team as a, I mean, hell, even if you're signed to a label, you still might not have a team, depending on what label it is, but manager and whatnot. It's trying to find time to do that or people to help you out to. It's tough. I believe social media is by far the most powerful tool that bands have, but getting a grasp on it, the hard part. And having that work ethic consistently to really make it work for you, that's really difficult to do, like you guys said, when you're also trying to write music still. So it's tough.
Gotta give a shout out to Tom at MySpace. He, you know, really learned a lot about this stuff back then, and I guess having those tools developed back then really helps us out today in navigating through the platforms of today. Yes. Just kind of having that know-how, just from experience. Yeah, thank you.
Bring back MySpace. Bring back everybody just going to one page.
Oh man,
the MySpace music player, all in one page.
Want.
Exactly. I can have my song on my page. Yeah, be rocking.
Or if you really need all these platforms, do what Facebook does when you're trying to post on Instagram, but post everywhere. I don't know. It's so frustrating and daunting sometimes.
Yeah.
But just give us MySpace back, like back in the day, and I think everyone will be happy with that.
Please. We've got on Instagram here. Go through a couple of comments. Actually, let's check the comments in the chat real quick. Got Nostarian said, "What up, gangster? Orafest is here. What's up, Tim? Thanks again for helping to set this up." Nostarian, not sure if I'm pronouncing that, says, "Can you make a hug for me?" That's insane. This was back when we were talking about recording. He said that's insane considering how amazing the record is. Yes, Dominic wanted to hear some of the voice memos that you guys were talking about.
Maybe we'll use that for some social media content, since that's going to be a popular one.
Yeah,
save it for that. So
that could viral video format there for sure.
Yeah.
Top 8, baby. Drake wants to know, is it a new full length you guys are playing?
Not this year. We don't have time, dude.
Yeah, man, we got like 2 weeks left this year.
but now we're writing some stuff. We have a lot of stuff written. Just got to piece it together, and we're definitely ready. We know that 2024 is the year that we have to release something. So it's a long time coming, and we're definitely working on it. I hope to have it out earlier than later, but the way the timeline's going, it'll probably be mid to late 2024 if depending on how we do it, or depending on if it's an EP or a full length, we'll have to decide that.
Gotcha. You guys kind of talking about EP full lengths. It seems a lot of bands now waterfall release strategy where you still release a full length, but let's say if you have 10 songs on that full length, you drop a song, wait 6 to 8 weeks, drop a song, the second song, and then you include the previous one, and then song 3 comes out, and the 3-song EP, song 4 comes out, et cetera, et cetera. Have you guys considered doing something like that, or are you just gonna say, hey, this feels right, let's just drop an EP album? You guys consider something like that?
I think it's definitely something we've been brought up. It seems to be a popular thing today with doing singles. I guess it's really up in the air whenever we get a body of songs together that you would call an EP or a full-length LP. Just kind of go at it, what feels best, what seems best, marketing strategy, I guess, what's working at the time or what seems to be working and producing results. I always like to do the traditional, here's a full-length album, put out a single, drop a song, a preview or whatever, and then, put the album out and then work it. But times have changed. People like singles.
Yeah, personally, I'm not a fan of the whole single thing. I kind of just want to release a full length and just put it out there, and but that might not be the smartest move. I don't know. But we're dinosaurs, so we we're stuck in our old ways, and that's the thing. It's like you have to battle that and do what's best. But if I had it my way, I'd probably just release a full length with a single, just like I grew up seeing bands do. And I don't know, it's at the end of the day, they're going to hear the record, and it's, I think, spreading the songs out. I mean, maybe it works for newer artists, but I feel like since we're we've kind of left our mark, and we kind of just kind of pivoted where we're at. I don't know what makes sense, but I guess we'll get there when we get there.
Yes, Dominic said, Tom, it's guys, if anybody listening somewhere else and whatnot want to check the live comment. Said, yes, Dominic said, Tom taught everyone to code. I remember seeing a meme somewhere, something talking about MySpace.
HTML.
Right? Yeah, about how we were all flirting with 6-figure salaries and didn't even realize it.
Yeah, man, put a layout on that MySpace.
Right?
You're a genius.
Gotta get those overlays right, bud. Leisha says, hey, what's up? Welcome to the stream. Any chance you guys will play anything off the EPs at Aurafest? Guess he's talking about the new stuff.
Yeah, we haven't worked out the set list, but it's definitely got to happen. Even our last run that we did with Warforged, we talked about doing some of the older stuff. So just depending on how much time we have together to work on those songs, because it's obviously a completely different lineup now. But on the flip side, I would love to have this lineup play those songs. I think it would be really cool, for fans to see, and I'd actually be stoked to see it, because it's a different band. I mean, we have that same obviously built around a certain sound, but I feel like we're a little more. Things have changed over the years, so I think it would be very cool to hear this lineup with that. I think that would be something awesome.
Jeremy wants to know, will Force-Fed Trauma ever be played live again?
Heck yeah, man. That's a banger live.
Yeah, we play that one. We play it pretty often, like when we go out, I feel. We didn't play it last run though, did we?
It was an encore on the last run. If they wanted it, we gave it to them.
I always want
Yeah.
it.
Most of the time, they do.
Money says, would love to see you guys hit the road Black Dahlia when they drop their new album in the year.
Dude, that'd be so sick. Always love that band. Steven and I both, I think we started with the first record. So I remember when pretty much a big reason why I shopped our like early stuff to Love Lost was because I was so into the label and I think Into the Moat and Black Dahlia Murder were on Love Lost.
Wow.
Yeah, that 4-song EP Black Dahlia did was on Love Lost before Unhollowed.
This guy
Was
just
it
said
Horrible
Into
Night?
the Moat. I can't believe.
Yeah, we're showing some age, cuz. But yeah, I mean, back then, we started from the beginning with Black Dahlia, and we actually toured with them. I think 2006 or 7, Sounds of the Underground, 2006, I believe. So I met, all those guys back then, and I was a huge fan then, huge fan now, and festival setting, is totally different from an actual tour, but we would. We've always wanted to tour with them, like for an actual tour, and it just never really happened. So, who knows?
Emma Talware. I'm pronouncing correctly. Apologies. 2024 be more of a fest year for shows, or do y'all have any tours lined up too?
Probably fest for now.
Yeah. A lot of us are, we have kids and wives and, other things, making it a little more difficult to get out there, like we used to. I think, Steven's band Wretched is going to be doing a lot of stuff next year as well. So I think we're kind of aiming to do, stuff here and there, get the record out, do some festivals, hopefully. And, we can do smaller runs, versus like, touring 8 or 9 months out of the year. So we'll see.
Gotcha. Jay says, really, he wants to really hear Take Comfort.
Yeah, it's been a while since we played that one live. Long time, 2005 maybe.
Dust that off. Do you guys have trouble remembering?
I gotta remember how to play that shit.
That's what I was gonna ask. If do you guys have tabs for any of this stuff written somewhere? Or is it just you have to listen to the song and just try to remember how to play it again?
Not the old stuff. We don't have any tabs. We have some new tabs. We keep talking about actually releasing, for fans that are into that. But I keep talking about it. Eventually, I'm going to start tabbing all of our stuff. But yeah, we don't have tabs for any of the older stuff. I have to learn a lot of that stuff. I actually started doing that recently, though, because I know that we're going to be probably promoting the new vinyl Scars of Annihilation, and that's got all that old material, and it'd be cool to play some songs off of that. So we'll get to it. I promise.
What the current lineup is?
Let's see. It's Danny Rodriguez on vocals. He was on the Skepsis record and Disolmus. And Justin Longshore on guitar. He's on all of them. Me, Steven Funderburg. I'm on Disolmus and I'll be on the new stuff. Jake Osaski on bass. And Mike Raney on drums. Jake's been on everything since Malice, and Mike is on the Skepsis and Disolmus records, and he'll be on the new stuff as well.
The last time I saw you guys actually was Texas Independence Fest. You guys remember that? Or yeah. Justin, you might. It was
2016.
Steven was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Crazy ass lineup.
Our current lineup, we've been together for a while. So yeah, that was a good festival.
Yeah, it was oh God, who Rise Icon, you
Bury Your
guys,
Dead,
You're the Eyes of the Dead,
Unearth.
Bury Your Dead, Unearth, Ocean O, On Broken
Carnifex?
Wings. I mean,
Carnifex
Carnifex
too.
played it.
they did. That's right. It was just I had to fly out for that one. That one was crazy, and it sounded really good too.
We all flew out too.
Yeah, that was one of the best sounding metal shows that I've ever seen too. Just as far as who was running front of house and mixed it. It was woo. Actually, what's funny
I
is
remember. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say real quick. I remember I think I didn't end up getting there until you guys were setting up. Because at the time I was working night shift, so I got off work at 6 a.m., got on a plane, flew out there, got to the hotel, had to sleep for some time, so I missed the first couple of bands, but I think I got there right when you guys were setting up, and I knew it was going to sound good when you were sound checking, and he hit the snare, and it just had the perfect pop, the perfect low end, and the perfect amount of reverb. I was like, oh, this is going to sound good as shit. What's up? And it did. That was one of the best live mixes I've ever heard for a metal show.
We'll have to give it to Brandon Cagle on that one. He was our sound guy for that show. He did a bunch of tours with us. He was in Whitechapel, and I think he still goes out with those guys all the time. I think he's like their main sound guy. But yeah, we've known him for a long time, and he is a killer sound guy and wrote a lot of killer riffs for Whitechapel too.
Nice.
But I remember hearing Despised Icon at that show. They played after us, and they sounded killer. Like they sounded really good.
The PA was dialed in, not just for you guys, but for everybody else too. But yeah, I mean, when you guys are setting up and he hit that snare, I was like, all right, this guy knows. And it sounded good. And it's funny too, it wasn't so ridiculously loud, which is what a lot of venues typically seem to do with metal bands. Like, I'll just push all the faders all the way up because they just think it needs to be loud. Like, no, it actually turned down the volume. It wasn't super loud. It was just loud enough, but that's what helped him to be able to get a good mix. And it just, dude, it just sounded so good. I mean, what's even crazier about that is it was an open venue. It was you had a roof going up over the stage, but it was outside and it still sounded that good, which is even harder to do. So
yeah, those kind of setups usually sound like shit, man. I'm usually, when I go to a show, I'm just like,
great.
This is going to be great.
Just doing damage control instead of mixing at that point, right?
Yeah, man.
Kind of speaking of live here, AJ said, let's break down the guitar rigs. What are you guys using? Are you using digital now? Or are you pushing air again with the nice half stacks?
Oh, man. All right. I'll start with this one. My rig is constantly changing. Like, it's stupid. I'm the biggest gear nerd, and it's a sickness, man. It's not cool. And if I'm not talking to Steven or someone else about gear, I'm talking to my wife about it. And she listens and she knows a lot about gear, believe it or not.
Just through you talking to her about it, she knows all kinds of shit now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she gets frustrated for sure, but she listens. And anyways, I've been with Kiesel guitars for a long time. I love them. Not to say I don't love, a lot of other brands and things like that, but, for what we do, Kiesel's like perfect, personally for me. So I've been with them for a long time, 2013, 14, something like that. But, the amp and pedal world and modeling and real amps, I like it all, man. I like it all.
That's awesome.
It has its own place. I think, we battle, ease of use and things that are lighter versus heavier and what makes more sense economically. I think that's kind of what we battle. Currently, we're both using Kempers, but we still use cabs. So we split the signal, front of house, we'll go direct with cab sims on, but we still have, cabs on stage. We got to have cabs. You got to have air, pushing. But lately I've been thinking like it's like, man, am I going to fly to Orafest? Should I try and figure out like a real tube amp rig and just go, how we used to do it? Because I think our last run that we did, I loved the Kempers, but I kept thinking like, man, just a couple pedals and, tube amp pushing air. I think I kind of missed that.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. I feel like when you do something, you kind of wish you look at the good things about it, but then you don't look at, all the inconsistencies and things like that. But, Steven can tell you too, he's more into tube amps and things like that. But, yeah, I don't know. I like them both. Currently, our last run, we did use Kempers direct, but we also use cabs.
Steven, what's your take on that?
I've always been a tube amp guy. Mesa Boogie is tried and true. It's pretty much only kind of tube amp or amp I've been using since 2005. I got a dual rack in '05, and I used that for good 7-8 years, full-time touring on every album, everything I recorded. And then I got a Mark V when they came out with those. There was a Dream Theater record that came out that John Petrucci used that on. And I just Dream Theater.
Oh, I'll have to check them out after the stream.
This guy.
Yeah, he set you up pretty good with that one.
They got me. But yeah, the tone was so great that I just decided to get one, and I've just always liked having that, just a real loud amp. And when you really push tubes and really crank the volume on them, put a lot of heat through them, they really start to come through and sound great.
Got to get them cooking, cuz.
That's right. That's right. The only downfall to them is they're just a little big and heavy, and
you have to turn them to
economical use. This year I got a Kemper and started using that. But I was always kind of not so against modeling, but I just didn't want to give up that pure amplifier tone, like standing in front of a cab in the room tone. But for economical use, and like Justin was saying, weight and loading in and out, been using the Kemper with a it's kind of funny. I use another modeling amp as the power amp. It's a non-powered Kemper, and I'm going through a bias effects or a positive grid bias mini head, and that's what I'm using as a power amp right now. It's a little funny thing to do, but it totally works. I just use the straight power amp. That's it. But it works.
We don't use we don't mic the cabs when we're using the modelers and stuff, but since we use the direct feed for the front of house. But I don't know, it's cool. I've come to I hate like this versus that. Everything kind of has its own place, but I think ultimately I've decided that tube amp with some pedals would be my choice, but it always just doesn't end up that way, depending on the logistics of things, especially like since we're scattered and we don't have like a practice space that we can just kind of go back and forth, and we kind of just got to figure it out on the fly. So
yeah, and if you're gonna model your own amps and stuff, you guys already have the Kempers, great for that. So you can put a lot of faith in the Kemper that it's going to capture the true sound of your head if you kind of have a setup to be able to record that. But when it comes to recording IRs from tube heads, Kemper's the way to go. The Axe-Fx will still do it, but that's kind of the big thing with the Kempers, that it just does a little bit better. And it's a lot easier to use than an Axe-Fx. It doesn't have as much of a curve, but again, they all have their own pluses and minuses.
Yeah, I've been through them all.
Yeah, so you're aware.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, and even mixing and blending those we use a Keeley Mod tube screen through an Axe-Fx too. So instead of using a drive on the Axe-Fx, that one, and then run it through cabs. So we've experimented with using our Basis's 5150 head as a power amp instead of an actual power amp. And that's cool because now you have the presence and resonance control on the power amp, which you didn't have before, and still running through an Axe-Fx. It's yeah, you're right too about the whole debates, because there's so many benefits to both. Yeah, tube has that sound, but a lot of the time you do have to turn it all the way up to really get all of the sound. What's great about amp models is you don't have to turn it all the way up. It just sounds exactly the same the whole time. But there's the whole thing of the tubes sound better still, etc. And yes, they're more heavy to carry around versus amp modelers, and there's just this and that. But that's interesting though that you, because most people seem to typically have a stance on that, right? I tube heads only or amp sims only, right? So it's really cool as interested in gear as you are.
Well,
you seem to be digging both of them.
Yeah, I think one thing is with modeling, we're finally there. I always tried to incorporate modeling way back in the day, even, with my tube rigs, and it just never was quite there. I think now we're pretty close. You do A/B testing, to someone with golden ears, and they may not be able to tell the difference. And at the end of the day, like, what percentage are you sacrificing, and does the audience really know or care? And it's like, it either sounds good or it doesn't.
Yeah.
So that's my whole approach. But yeah, I mean, I've been through them all, man. I used to be a gear whore back in the day, and I jumped a lot of companies for sure. And I probably pissed off a lot of people, but I just love gear, man.
Steven, when you're so you said that you have a Kemper and you still like to use the Mesa Boogie heads and stuff. Have you ever modeled your own actual Mesa heads into the Kemper, or did you download a patch from somewhere, or how did you go about setting up tones for that, being that you love the Mesa heads so much going to a Kemper?
It's funny. It's funny you ask. Actually, I actually use Mesa profiles in the Kemper. I think it's a rectifier profile I use and a Mark V, just the two heads. Honestly, I haven't done too much dialing in the Kemper. I just found some profiles I really liked, kind of dialed them into what I wanted them to sound like, and just rock. I just kind of use it more so as a tool to, I guess, find what I need and stick with it. Justin likes to go through gear. I tend to I'll find something and I'll stick with it. Those two Mesas I've had for coming up on 20 years, one of them now, and all I do is just retube them every few years. And I've been playing Ibanez guitar since, I think, 2006 now. I love what they do as well, just Ibanez and Mesa. Yeah, I don't really do too much dialing with the Kemper. I still use my tube head and stuff to demo stuff and record. The only downfall I think I still have with modelers is dynamics and human nuances with playing. Like, say if you were to roll back your volume on your guitar and you start playing lightly or changing dynamics that way, I think modelers are still not fully up to speed there, it seems, versus when you play an amp. Yeah, they're getting there. They're very close versus, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But
oh yeah, for God, I just started having PTSD from the Line 6 kidney bean pod. Do you remember that thing?
Yeah.
God.
I had all of those, dude.
How far we've come, right?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that too. Alex from Whitechapel reminded me on Instagram recently that I think I had sold my Pod XT or something to him way back in the day. I was like, damn, I think I probably wrote 2 inches on that thing or something. So kind of funny. I think I have the old Pod Bean that my buddy let me borrow that doesn't really work well, but I think I still have that. But yeah, I don't hold on to a ton of gear. If I see something new, I kind of will try and, replace it, and I'll sell this and get that or something. So
that's my downfall, is I hold on to gear.
I'm trying to be that way.
I get attached to it. If I write a riff with a piece of gear, I'm like, but we're one. We're together now forever.
I keep my guitars. I feel like my guitars, they stay usually. So
there's literally yin and yang right now between you two.
Yeah,
on
man,
one hand, we have, oh, dude, I go through gear like underwear. On the other hand, I've had the same 2 amps for 20 years.
Hey, man.
It's pretty funny.
He's a stubborn feller, man. He likes what he likes. If it don't glow, it don't go.
That's right. I've been wearing the same kind of shoes since 6th grade. They work.
Ain't broke, don't fix.
That's right. That's what we say in the South.
That's right. We do say that down here a lot. Bring 20 years.
He's on some old ass firmware on that Kemper. Don't let him fool you.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he doesn't even update that, right? Yeah.
I don't mess
He
with
doesn't have that
firmware.
liquid profiling that they just released, man.
He's on 1.01.
My camper takes longer to get started up than my tube amps does. Dude.
Wow.
Yeah. That's
Hell
my
yeah.
firmware needs a little update.
How you know it sounds good though? Right?
Yeah, man.
Yep.
Yeah, older operating systems are better anyways. That's what they say.
Was
come
on Windows XP.
Yeah, he put Windows Vista on it. Probably would have way less problems than if you put Windows 11 on it. Sure.
Fair.
Wants to know, Kama wants to know again, or said, bring 20 Years of the Dead tour to the East Coast.
Well, we did like the Midwest. We do need to do the East Coast and the West Coast for that. To be honest,
we haven't been to the West Coast since like 2011.
Damn.
But East Coast, we've done some stuff here and there, but 20 Years tour, definitely we need to hit like Philly and New York, Mass. We always do really well in those places, and got to bring it down south again. And
back to
gotta come down to homeland.
Yeah, we're going to give them a little taste of that Horror Fest down in Savannah, Georgia.
Shout out Atlanta. Of course. What album are you most proud of, and what favorite song off of?
From
Drake
this year?
Drake didn't specify. He just said what most, just in general.
You go first, Justin. What you got?
Man, you put me on the spot.
Question.
So for me, I think, so the question was, what's my favorite album? Like and I'm most proud of?
What album are you most proud of, and what is your favorite song off of it?
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So I think Malice would be the one. And, the reason I say that is, because, I got to meet, Eric Rutan, and, he produced and engineered it and mixed it. It was a really awesome experience going down to Florida to record that, because, I was always obsessed with the, Florida death metal scene growing up, and to record with, the legend that's in one of my favorite bands, Morbid Angel, and, I loved Hate Eternal, and, now he's in Cannibal Corpse, but it was just truly an experience recording with him. And it really taught me, how to record a record, and every little nuance is important, and every detail, and really just how to approach, your playing, and just, I think it was just really eye-opening. It was a very tough time. It was very, it was just a grueling process, I will say. I think my ear developed better, like even with like tuning and stuff like that. I think, I just had a lot to digest and kind of, learn from him. He's been doing it forever, and, him telling me stories about, recording with Morbid Angel, and, Trey, his style on guitar is one of my favorite guitar players. It was just, I was just soaking it all in, and, I was just happy as could be, even though it was a very hard record, to record. But yeah, I'm going off on a tangent here, but I don't know. I haven't really thought about it in a long time, but I think that, and we actually did, for the Japanese release of Malice, we recorded a Morbid Angel song, and he taught me, the riffs, how they were actually supposed to be played. And I don't know, it was like, just the nuance of those riffs. It was just really like, man, I really got to get my chops back and start really focusing on, certain ways, playing style. But my favorite song off that record, I really, really like the song Malice on that record. It's a very fast death metal song. I don't think we've ever played it live. So I think it's just a very straight ahead death metal song. But I do recall, and not to go off on a tangent here, so sorry, I'm carrying the song. But I remember when we were on our way back home from the studio in the van, and we were listening back to the record before we had put vocals on it or anything. And I was like really bummed out because I was like, no one's going to like this shit. Like, no one is going to like it. I'm not feeling it. I was, and I think it's probably our most popular record, that and Bloodlust, obviously, but I think there's a diehard fan base for that record specifically. And it's just such a like raw, menacing record, and the production is like one of my favorites. So I don't know. It was a cool time.
Gotcha. What about you? What album are you proud of? Well, you're the new guy, so this might be kind of interesting question for you. But I guess, what's your favorite album? Which one do you enjoy the most, and what's your favorite song off of it?
I guess I'll go back to when I actually first discovered the band. One of my best buds, Marshall, the drummer of Wretched, introduced me to Through the Eyes of the Dead.
Shout out Marshall.
Yeah, he
boy.
I think it was summer of 2005. He had showed me the band, and I think the first track I heard was Abyssal Creation. So I kind of have like a sentimental attachment to that one, just because it's the first song I heard from the band, and every time we play it, it's pretty fun to play live. It's a pretty rocking track. Although I'm not on that recording, I do enjoy the track. I'm only on the Dissolmus record, but I like that one too. It was fun on that one because that one's got both Anthony Gunnels and Nate Johnson, as well as Danny, on the whole record. One of the tracks I have a solo on. As soon as my solo ends, the track Terrace, Nate Johnson comes in with a guest line, and that's pretty cool. Me, 16-year-old me, is stoked and still stoked today. So it's fun.
Dominic Dad, or Riggs of Dad, talking about gear. Dad, I've got a trouble with having a Mesa oversized 2005. If you dated, Random Underground Music says, "What's up? Love you guys. Wants to know when Through the Eyes of the Dead is going back on tour." Kind of touched on that a second ago, but I think he just popped in the stream.
Yeah, hopefully at some point next year.
Yeah, 2024. It's looking good.
Gotcha. Back to Ibanez S742 FM. Damn.
So there's a wild story behind that. That green guitar that you're talking about, it's in the 2 Inches from a Main Artery music video. It's like a turquoise, I think a 99 or 2000 Ibanez S7420. About 5-6 years ago, I actually wanted to find one of those and grab one because I wanted a 7-string S Ibanez. I really love the S series Ibanez models, and so I started looking around on Reverb, and I found one, that same color. And as I was reading the description, the guy had put in there, for what it's worth, this guitar used to belong to the guitar player in Through the Eyes of the Dead. And so I messaged him and asked him about it. And I told him, hey, I'm currently in that band. I'd love to buy it. And ended up making a deal and buying it. And it's actually Justin's his actual old guitar from the 2 Inches video. It's still got a humbucker. I think he had some on Myrtle Beach put in. It's still got a Scout fretboard, how it was when he sold it. And so I just randomly by chance came across it, bought it back, and it's back in the Dead family. And
wow.
We use it occasionally for some shows here and there, but if I ever sell it, I'm selling it to Justin.
Yeah, we can't let that one go again. It's just got a lot of history. But yeah, that was an insane thing to happen. I was like pretty shocked. That was like one of my first sevens, I think, and I'm pretty sure that guitar was on Bloodlust, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I had a Duncan JB in the bridge that, like you said, some random tech in Myrtle Beach installed. And the Scallop fretboard, if I recall right, was done from some dude in Georgia, because that's where I bought it. I think I don't remember how I came across this thing, but it was, pretty worn when I bought it. Probably looks the same now though. So the other guy took really good care of it. But
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty cool. A lot of history with that thing.
Yeah, because that would have had to have been in the video, which when did that video come out?
2005, I think.
2005. So you guys recorded that video with that guitar, and at some point you sold it or something, and it comes back around to where he finds it. Because I mean, the small window that you would have to be looking for a guitar on Reverb and then see that one. Right? I mean, it's just it's
crazy.
It is. The coincidence there is just it's insane.
Yeah.
That particular Ibanez, the 7420 from that particular era, the late 90s model, it's a little hard to find, and you know, whenever they pop up, they usually don't stay along for long. They go quickly.
And they usually go for a lot more money too, so
yeah.
You got to pull the "Hey, I'm in this band, cut me a deal" thing.
Basically, that's what I did.
How many people in bands get to say that?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I got a really good deal on this guitar from Reverb because it's the guitar that we used to use in this band.
Crazy.
Do you guys have a favorite song to perform live by any chance?
Let's see.
I'll tell you one of my least favorite songs.
Which one's that?
It's 2 inches.
Okay, yep, that makes sense.
Actually, let me take that back. I feel like the last, like, when we were like heavily touring, I was so sick of playing that song, and I would always try and come up with reasons not to play it. And you know, the band would always argue and say, "Nah, dude, we got to play that song. Are you fucking serious?" So, and you know, it's definitely like one that gets, you know, the crowd going. So like, it would be dumb not to play it, but I don't know. I played it for so long, and I'm just kind of sick of it. I don't know. But when we actually play it live, I do enjoy it. But other than that, like, I always just like, man, we have all these other songs I want to play. But I don't know. My favorite live song. Damn, this is tough. As Good as Dead's fun to play live.
That's my favorite and least favorite at the same time to play.
Yeah. How is that both for you?
So that song on the record, it has a guest guitar solo on the recording of it on Malice that was done by Ryan Knight, you know, who's in Black Dahlia now, and it's a very challenging solo. It's got some pretty wild acrobatics, two-handed acrobatics going on, and I haven't been able to exactly replicate what he does live, and that's why I hate it. But I love playing it. It's a very fun song to play.
So the song in general was fun. Like, it's that part, trying to play his solo. Yeah,
it's a killer solo.
Laser focused.
Yeah, basically.
Gotcha. You guys have any favorite venues you've ever played at before? Any that really stick out to you? Maybe it was something unique, or maybe just something crazy happened at it.
I really like playing House of Blues venues. The venues themselves are always decorated very nicely. The art and stuff's really cool. Catering's pretty cool. The green rooms are pretty cool. PA's usually really nice there. Just a matter of getting into those venues. Not every day. You just go and play House of Blues. You know, it's kind of circumstantial based on a tour or something like that, or a festival, something like that.
How you, Justin?
Yeah. One that sticks out is Chain Reaction. I really like the smaller, more intimate venues, as long as it's like got decent sound. But I recall that place being very cool to play because it's just always insane. I've always liked playing New Brooklyn Tavern in Columbia, South Carolina, just because, like, you know, I grew up watching shows there, and you know, that's where the band's from, so it's really cool. You know, another one's Ground Zero in Spartanburg, which is kind of a weird location, but you know, we've played a lot of shows, a lot of history there, and it's you know, they've always taken good care of us. There's a handful. I used to love playing Tremont in Charlotte, North Carolina.
That's where I grew up.
Yep. I think Steven saw us there, right?
Yeah, back with I think Terror in 2006.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's still doing shit and making it happen from way back when.
Yeah, there's a bunch. I'm probably forgetting like some, but I don't know. There's a lot of good ones out there.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, is there anything else in specifically that you guys want to talk about? I mean, we talked about, if you want to maybe touch on the labels. We talked about you guys' two labels briefly. Maybe you guys want to give a little bit more information about that.
Yeah, we started. Justin and I started. I guess our own record labels this year. We had the original two EPs that the band put out. Justin had got the rights to those for some time now, and we decided that it would be cool to put them out ourselves and collaborate on it. They had never been on vinyl before, and so we decided to do that. It was basically, we saw an opportunity and decided to jump with and go with it. And I think now we're just going to put the bands, whatever we put out that's new next year, we'll just do it through our labels. And it's fun doing it. You know, it's been a learning process, and it's cool getting to see the behind the scenes and doing the behind the scenes stuff that a label would normally do. Justin, elaborate?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like Stephen was saying, you know, we collaborated on that. We thought it would be a very good first release for the labels because, you know, a lot of fans have been, you know, like a lot of old school fans have been really wanting that, you know, on certain media. So, you know, we did two variants for this vinyl. You know, they're both limited, 250 each. And I think the gold one sold out, and the blue one that we did is almost sold out. But yeah, I mean, it's been a learning curve, but I think it was, you know, it's good timing, you know, with Jamie having remixed and remastered it and us collaborating both to get these labels, you know, up and running, you know, and we kind of can dial things in as we go. That way, when we're ready to put, you know, other releases out, or even Through the Eyes of the Dead, you know, our next release, we can kind of, you know, get the kinks worked out and, you know, have the growing pains kind of out of the way, to kind of do it, you know, in a more proper way. But yeah, you know, the label, my label that I started is called Skepsis Recordings, and Stevens is Beyond the Top Records. And, you know, you can catch everything at skepsisrecordings.com or beyondthetoprecords.com. So all that info is there, and we just started shipping the vinyl, and we're looking forward to, you know, releasing, you know, music in the future. We're trying to, you know, find, you know, a lot of the stuff that maybe, you know, was really good from back in the day that didn't get the credit it deserved. And, you know, maybe we can put that out and, you know, give it to people that, you know, still want it, or have, you know, fans that never heard things like that, and kind of open them to kind of where we, you know, started.
Yeah, there you go, guys. Got the names of their labels, so feel free to go check them out and see what they're going, what they're up to. I also have links for Through the Eyes of the Dead in the description of this YouTube video. You can go to their Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, etc. There's also a link for their merch store. So before we wrap up here, guys, is there anything else you want to add? You want to say to the fans real quick?
Come see us at Aurafest. I think in March 1st we're playing.
Yeah, with Zayo.
Yeah.
Sick.
Badass lineup. Again, so Zayo, Last 10 Seconds of Life, Through the Eyes of the Dead, With Blood Comes Cleansing. We did an interview with them too, guys. Hazing Over, Psycho Frame, Bonginator, cool last name, Balmora, Second Death, Backslide, Common Enemy, and Sling Blade. Stacked ass line. Friday, March 1st. Is that your guys' next show, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So Friday, March 1st in Savannah, Georgia, you can catch Through the Eyes of the Dead playing Aurafest. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for coming out. Appreciate you digging deep into some of these nitty-gritty details and giving us the inside scoop on things like, for instance, 2 Inches from a Main Artery not only was 2 songs combined, but it's also your least favorite song to play live. So which, I mean, when you see a song like that on a band's Spotify, it's like, okay, that's the one they probably play the most. You probably think most of the band hates that song anyway. It's probably safe to assume. But Because that's one you always have to play. Like maybe Norma Jean is tired of playing Memphis, maybe laid to waste, right?
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, anyway, guys, thank you so much. Thank you all the fans in the comment section here for coming out and chatting with us and chatting with each other and filling some questions. Thanks again to Tim at Orafest for helping to put this on. So, Steven, Justin, thank you guys so much.